I'm extremely excited for this because what we're going to cover today and what Nathan is going to kind of help us go through, it is essentially the foundation of any strong business. And because everything comes down to or boils down to understanding your customer or your potential customer really, really well. And with that, what you get is really good insight generation, right? And with insight generation, what it helps you with is any kind of conversion that you need to do. Now we can talk about conversion in different phases and different stages. It'll be different for different companies. It could be a website conversion, it could be going from a lead to a sales lead, or so on and so forth. But the key element here is insight generation and conversion that comes through it. And today's session will be uncovering your hidden growth potentials and opportunities with 3 high impact research methods. I'll give you a really quick brief about Nathan. Nathan is a conversion consultant and ex-head of user research at PandaDoc. He's passionate about startups, mental models, and facilitating the greater good via software. He lives with his wife and his 2 cute cats in Tampa, Florida. Thanks for joining us, Nathan. And Nathan is also the founder of Lippi Labs. Thank you so much for joining us, Nathan. And I'll kind of leave the floor to you.
Thanks so much. Okay. I am very excited to talk with everyone. Let me just share my screen.
Sure. In the meantime, if you guys have any questions to ask, please go ahead and you can pin it in the chat section or the Q&A section. We'll have a couple of minutes in the end to go through all the questions.
All right. Thank you. So my presentation is about stopping guessing and starting growing, using 3 magic research methods to unlock more MRR. I'm having, sorry, just 1 second.
No worries.
Okay, let's share my screen again. All right, so it's about stopping guessing and starting growing, using 3 magic methods to unlock more MRR. So let's imagine you work for a 10 million ARR SaaS startup called Hypergrowth Limited. So one day you decide you should check your most important metrics, MRR. Before I show you Hypergrowth Limited's MRR, I want to tell you it's very confidential. So please don't tell anyone about this. Super exclusive numbers. But here's our MRR. You can see, you check and you see it's starting to look like a classic hockey stick growth curve. But suddenly you notice your growth rate isn't so hot. You're still growing, but not as fast. And a serious competitor has entered the space, and they've just raised $1 jillion and are hiring like crazy. So you start to get scared and you call a meeting with the team. You need to find anything that'll boost your growth rate. So you have a brainstorming session and you end up coming up with a dozen methods to improve your growth rate. You try all the classics, a website redesign, more pop-ups, a website slider, bigger buttons. And after the session, everyone's really happy and you go off to implement the changes. So 3 months later, you go and you check your metrics and growth has tanked. So you call another meeting. This time it's with the board and it is not a fun meeting. It's very tense. And so you get off Zoom and you start spinning. What do I do now? You have no idea and you fall into a really deep sleep. In the morning, you wake up and you're strangely refreshed. And under your pillow is a magic list, which it actually looks like you smashed it a bit while you were rolling around, fitfully tossing and turning. But you're able to still read the list, and it has 10 website changes just for your company. And it explains if you test these 10 changes 5 of these changes will be guaranteed to boost your growth rate. So you ask, should I do it? And the answer is yes, you should change the locks to your house, because that's weird that someone put something under your pillow. But then you start wondering about the magic list, and you decide to go ahead and A/B test those 10 changes. So 3 months later, you check your metrics, and you're back on track. The whole company celebrates. You get a promotion, and the investors want to fund you for $10 billion. Everything's going really well. So you might be asking yourself, magic lists aren't really real, are they? I wouldn't say that's exactly true. So many companies, when they work on growth, they just guess. And their A/B tests reflect that with an average of about 12 to 15% win rate. But it truly does not have to be that way. If instead of guessing, you use research to discover what's holding your growth rate back. And when you do this, a 50% win rate, just like the magic list, is a real possibility. So in the next 15 minutes, I'll teach you how to create a magic list of your own with 3 magic techniques that I've chosen for their power and also their relative simplicity. So the 3 techniques are first session alchemy, content mining, and my favorite, the question of power.
Nathan, we have a blur screen disclaimer.
Okay, let me stop and start sharing again real quick. We can build some suspense.
Yeah.
All right, how are we now with the blurred screen?
Good to go.
Okay, so we have our 3 methods. There is a bit of detail in these upcoming slides. Don't worry about writing everything down, because I will share a link to this slideshow, a bit.ly link. You'll be able to just access the whole entire content of the presentation afterwards. And also you'll be able to ask me questions via email afterwards. Okay, so first session alchemy, technique number 1 is a basic spell learned by all magic list makers. But because it's so basic, people often underestimate its power. The common name for this is first session usability testing. And why you should use this is, if you've worked in a SaaS, because when you work in your SaaS, you get familiarity blindness very quickly. Everything seems easy to you because you're used to it. So you need to experience the SaaS through your new customer's eyes. And when you use this technique, you always find something, especially if you've never done it before. And this technique is special because it motivates both engineers and executives to fix problems very quickly. So the basic of the technique, technique is get 5 people who are similar to people who would be ideal customers and actually signing up for your SaaS, to visit your website and do typical tasks. Then you record the problems they run into, not only video recording, but also noting them down. And then you share the recordings. When executives and engineers see them, they cringe, like, I can't believe I built this feature and someone's struggling with it. I thought it was so simple. I need to fix this now. Executives, same thing. I can't believe our customers have this experience. The problems get fixed. Your SaaS makes more money. You look great for having done the research. So how you do this, you book calls with lookalike new customers using a service like respondent.io or userinterviews.com. You choose tasks and create a script. Some example tasks would be pretend a friend told you to check out this website. Please look around for 60 seconds and tell me what you think it's about. A task like this helps you spot where your homepage is confusing. And then you might have them go ahead and do a task to sign up and do some basic things that an ideal customer would be trying to accomplish when they sign up for your product. And then you book these calls through respondent.io. You run these calls 30 to 45 minutes, record them, share the recordings. It's not enough to just say, here's what we found. People need to see for themselves, and that's really what motivates them. But also, after you've shared the calls, you analyze the calls, share the summary, and say, we should do X, Y, and Z based on these 5 recordings or however many you end up doing. So technique number 2 is called content mining. And this technique is dark magic because it involves stealing. So in order to sell to your customer, you need to speak about what they love and you need to speak in their language. But you are not your customer. So you don't naturally, in most cases, think how they think and speak how they speak. Even if you use your own product, you still have familiarity blindness. So in order to speak their language and speak about what they care about, you need to steal their words. So the way to steal their words and talk about what they care about is you find a treasure trove of content from your happy customers, such as content from G2 Crowd, if you collect NPS. Do we have a blur alert?
Yeah, we did, but it's fixed now.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Okay, so this might be content from G2 Crowd, which is one of my favorite ways to get feedback. You could use NPS feedback. You could use survey data. If you have enough testimonials, you can use that as well. And then you use a specific technique, which I'll talk about in a minute, to analyze what they love about your product. In my experience, companies like to analyze what people dislike about their product and then fix it, which is also important. But from the marketing end, you want to talk about what people love so that people can understand the value of your product. And then you steal phrases about what they love and then use those phrases and that knowledge about what people care about to create headlines and pages in your customer's language about what they love. Then you test it and make money. You might be noticing a theme about testing or making money. So let's see. So here's an example of the output of some research you would do. You collect customer feedback in 1 per row, and then you have 1 theme per column. So notice that feature 1 has been mentioned 103 times in this analysis, and feature 3 has been mentioned only 23 times. So that's a good indication that feature 1 should have a lot more airtime on your key pages. So how you do it specifically, like I said, you find a source of happy reviews like G2 Crowd. You scrape the text into a spreadsheet. One of the Chrome extensions I really like to scrape data is Instant Data Scraper. It's an AI tool that's free. And then, so at this point, you should have a spreadsheet with 1 row per review. Then you go through each review, and whenever you see a theme that doesn't exist in your spreadsheet, just add it as a column. And if you have any, if your row matches any other themes, just mark a 1 in each cell where it's appropriate. Also, if you see any interesting quotes that you think might be appropriate for website copy or headlines, bold those, and then actually use this understanding of what people really care about to create headlines that talk and pages that really focus on what people care about in customers' language. This is very powerful for increasing conversion. Okay, so let's talk about
blur.
Are we blurred again? Okay, let me stop sharing and how are we now? Perfect. Okay. This one. Ugh. Okay, I'm having a little trouble on my end with presentation mode.
No worries.
All right. So the last technique is the question of power. This one is like having a crystal ball that tells you how to get free users, and free users equal more money. And this is actually the easiest of all techniques, but it's perhaps the least used. So why the question of power works, even successful customers, if you ask them, can tell you about plenty of barriers they've had to success that almost stop them from becoming a customer. So if you find out what those barriers are and fix them, more of your potential customers become successful and you get those free users that lead to some money. And I'm sure many of you perhaps can guess what the question is. What nearly stopped you from buying from us? Not complicated, but it's important to ask. So you want to ask this question as soon as possible after the customer is successful. For example, they pay you, ideally within 2 weeks. So you survey your customers, you find out what problems they have, you fix the problems, you get free users, and you make more money. So
that's really important, right? I don't think a lot of people ask this as to why did you nearly not become our customer? I think that's really crucial. Great insight there.
It's so powerful. Yeah,
absolutely.
And it feels like going through a treasure trove of information when you're analyzing those reviews. Oh my goodness, I had no idea that this was a problem. I can go and fix this right away. So it's very exciting when you're in the field doing it. So that is it. Those are the 3 simple techniques you can use to create a magic list and boost your growth rate. If you want to access the content of the presentation, you can access it here. I'll give you a few seconds to write it down, bit.ly/SaaS Magic, and that'll just redirect to this presentation.
SaaS Magic. I've typed it on the, I think Raghav helped us with that as well. Perfect.
Got it. And then if you have any questions for me or you want to say hi, feel free to reach out. I'm happy to give any additional details. Since this presentation was relatively short, I can't afford to give too many details, but I'm happy to freely share anything that people are curious about.
Thanks a ton for this, Nathan. If there are any questions, please feel free to pin them on the chat section and we'll go through them. In the meantime, actually, I had a couple just to kind of, just to clear a few things. So aside from the research methods, are there any other things that you use to get insights, other than these, well-structured research methods? Are there any other things that you think are helpful?
Definitely. So these 3 methods work in most circumstances, but it's always a hunt for the bottleneck that's holding a company back. And So I don't know. I have probably 1 or 2 dozen different research methods that I'll use depending on. So let me give some examples.
Sure.
Depending on what you're trying to debug, session tracking, where it essentially is like a video recording of someone browsing your website or signing up for your website. If you go and analyze 100 of those on key pages, that can be really, really critical. Analyzing live chat forums. One very powerful one is just talking. If you're in a big enough company, talking to different people in different roles like sales, customer success, support, about what they think the biggest problems that are preventing people from being successful are. And you'll hear different, really different perspectives just based on why people are interacting with them. And if you're doing that research as one person, you can piece it together into a big picture and say, based on everything I'm hearing and the 3 magic research methods I've done and this, we need to focus here and here and here and test this. And really that talking to employees can help give perspective really quickly. And this doesn't just apply to consultants, it applies, when I was at PandaDoc, we would do this all the time. My team would talk to people to get perspective quickly, and you don't necessarily always have to talk to 10 users to get an idea of what problems are exist.
Absolutely. And also, we have a lot of early stage companies who are part of this conference, and in a lot of cases, there is a high possibility that there isn't as much traffic on websites enough to actually run A/B tests. Maybe the sample size is too small. In that case, when it's not practical, what are some of the best methods to figure out ways to improve your conversion?
Mm-hmm. A good question. So first off, if you're a company like Facebook, you can afford to do extremely tiny tests where you just change one word. I don't know the specifics, but you can just change one word and get statistically significant results. If you kind of barely have enough traffic to run A/B tests, you can run very big tests that are likely to either create a 50% drop or 100% uplift. And you'll get results. You may be able to actually statistically significantly detect those sort of things. But if you don't have even enough traffic for that, doing usability tests is really powerful. And doing interviews can be really powerful. Session recordings, like I mentioned. And then once you've done those methods, don't just launch your website, create mock-ups, and then test those on people as well. Because you might be making an overall good change, but then you might have some copy that just throws people off or something that's not usable. And so you want to not only improve the content, but also make sure you have that extra layer of testing. So that could be as basic as just getting people on a call and having them walk through it, or yeah.
So it's a very subjective approach if you don't have that much data support with, right?
Sure. Yeah. You have to go more qualitative if you have less quantitative data.
Got it. We will take one last question. It's about this thing. Aside, apart from research, what's important for improving conversion rate?
So the way I think about improving conversion rate is a lot of people try to take a tactical approach where you say, hey, let's try this. And then a couple of weeks later, hey, maybe let's try this. So, but really it gets powerful when you create a system. So a system might include taking all your potential growth ideas and putting them in a backlog. Some of you, I'm sure, have heard of this. You put them in a backlog, organize them by the probability of success, the potential impact, and the effort, or whatever method. But I think it's more important just that you use a method. And then you want to have as much coverage as possible on your website. And then, I mean, if someone's not dedicated to having that system and running it, it's going to be really hard to have a lot of coverage, operate at a high velocity, and keep the system organized. But yeah, I would say those things are a good way to improve your conversion rate and supplement the insights you get from research.
Got it. That's great, Nathan. Thank you so much for joining us. We are right about on time with the session. And if you have any more questions, you have all the contact details available on the chat section. So please feel free to ping Nathan or let us know, and we'll pass on the questions and get back to you with the responses. I hope you guys had a great time, and thanks for joining us again, Nathan. You can join us on the other sessions as well, which will be available on stage, and check out the expo section as well within the portal. Thank you, guys.
Excellent.
See you soon. Thanks, Nathan.
Thanks so much, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Take care.